What's happening, everybody? It's your man Dave, DNYDC. And if you're here at this point in time, well, it's Monday night. And it's another episode of Two Mics Up. It's actually our 199th episode. What more can I say? And really just jumping in because we're going to unlock some authentic leadership and some secrets tonight with tonight's guest who's joining me on the other mic, an incredible woman who I've had the chance to talk to a couple of times and really get to know her a little bit better. And she has agreed to come on and share what she's doing with us and really help you become your authentic leadership self. And I hope you enjoyed tonight's conversation because we're going to kind of dive into a lot of different things because this sister has her hand and a lot of different things, really uplifting and supporting our community. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, joining me on the other mic tonight as our incredible guest, please put your hands together for the incredibly talented Erica Vanessa. Erica, how you doing this evening, sis?
I'm good. I'm good. Honestly, a little tired, but still pressing on. Grateful to be alive. Grateful to be here with you, sharing this space.
Well, it's I'm excited because we talked and we had a long conversation, a couple of weeks ago, really leading up to this. And your story and your journey is truly incredible. But with every story and every journey, we always have to start at the beginning. And Erica,
Mhm.
you know, please share with our audience, who Erica Vanessa is and what she enjoys doing when she's not really pouring into other people's cup.
Mhm. If I'm honest, what I enjoy doing when I'm not pouring into other people's cup is being quiet. I talk for a living, so majority of the time, if I can just be still and not have any noise and it just be quiet, that is my absolute all-time favorite thing to do. Who's Erica? Oh my goodness. I have been on a journey for self-discovery for such a long time. I'm grateful to say I've gotten to a greater part of that journey. I love, who I'm becoming, who I am. I'm loving the areas where I've fell and made mistakes. And I think I love those parts of me more than the parts that everybody sis boom bas. I love the parts where I can say, "Oh my God, I can't believe that happened," but look what I learned because of
Mm,
it. So at my core, I'm a student. I'm a
yeah.
student of life. I'm a student of purpose. I'm a student of pain. And I'm trying to get my degree.
Okay. Hey, look, ain't nothing wrong with that. Like, ain't nothing more than to keep adding and continuing to,
Hmm.
develop self.
Yeah,
Because the more we can develop ourselves and build into ourselves, the more we can share and give to others. And that's
absolutely.
truly incredible. And that's one of the things that I found, one, from talking to you, but
Hmm.
two, really preparing for this conversation, really digging in and understanding that your journey really spans over 25 years. And this is across, and it's incredible when you think about it, but this is across coaching, mentoring, you're an image consultant, you're a business life repurposer, if you will. Um, and when we look at that, Erica, like what pivotal moment or experience would you say, right? And I'm pretty sure there's probably a lot of them, but really helped most shape you and your vision of Erica Vanessa Global, because we talk about a global thing, and
Hmm.
in your mission to help individuals realign their purpose with prosperity.
Well, like you said, Damon, it could be a lot of things. There's a lot of things I can say, but I think the one pivotal point that I would highlight was the end of my marriage.
Mm,
So when my marriage ended, I remember I hadn't been telling a lot of people yet that the marriage had ended. I wasn't, kind of broad streaming it, to everyone in the family. But I remember I told my elder cousin, one of my favorite cousins, she came over and I said, he and I are no longer together.
mm.
And she said, "What?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, we're going our separate ways. And her response was this. This is the thing that changed my life. She
Okay.
said, "Well, don't worry about it. You're pretty. You'll find someone else."
Ah, ah.
And it was my cousin. She loves
Mm-hmm.
me. So I
Hmm.
know she meant that with love. She meant it with all
Yeah.
her heart. But I went inside that afternoon and I want to tell you, I think I cried because I closed the door and I was really confused. And I said, that's it?
Right.
God
Right.
forbid somebody throw acid in my face. Is that all I have? I'm pretty, so I could find somebody else.
Right.
And so I started writing what has now become my third book. It's called Pretty and What,
Mm.
because I needed some form of purpose to this life, and it couldn't just be because I was a decent looking woman. It
Right.
couldn't just be that, oh my god. I mean, because what happens if I find love in my 70s? I ain't gonna look like I looked in my 30s.
Right.
So it's like this can't be all I have.
Right.
And as much as I'm in fashion, I love fashion. I love women to make themselves look great. Ladies, this can't be all we got.
True. No, real,
And so
real
that's
talk.
really what started me down the road of Erica, what else is there to you? Like, is there more than the nice outfits? You walk into a room
Mm.
and people go, oh, she did that. Oh,
Right.
she ate. Oh, yeah, okay, but did I eat when I opened my mouth too? I don't want to just eat
Mm.
with my outfit on now. I
Good
want to
point.
leave an impression in the
Yeah.
room that
Yeah.
wasn't just my shoes or my hair.
Right. You know, that just makes me want to ask too, though, because I think so much of where we are today
Mm-hmm.
as a society and as a culture,
Mm-hmm.
specifically our, black culture,
Mm-hmm.
we spend a lot of time
Oh,
uh on our exterior look.
yes.
But how difficult really, like, even from that, like, what, because I think a lot of our women especially need
Mm-hmm.
to hear what was that drive to, okay, because that's very important to understand. You won't look the same way you did in your 20s or 30s.
Mm-hmm.
And to find someone who can fill you mentally, spiritually,
Absolutely.
me, of course, we would love to have the finances to go along with all,
Mhm, mhm.
but it really does start with you to be
Yeah,
able to bring those things
absolutely.
into your everyday life. And what was that journey like for you then, once you had that aha moment? Like, what did you go through and what processes did you go through to
I
really
remember
create those things that you wanted for yourself?
I remember one day I was in my bedroom. I
Hmm.
was, newly single, and I was in my bedroom. I was coming outside, and I said, "Oh, I'm gonna go make me some eggs, some scrambled eggs. I make really great scrambled eggs. My new husband gonna love my eggs." And now you know this by now, Damon. I'm a God girl, so
Yes.
I believe I heard the Holy Spirit say to me, "What makes you think he gonna like your eggs?" And I
Mm.
went, "Ooh." He said, "What makes you think the way you make eggs is how he likes them?"
Mm.
And I began to say, my God. And so at that moment, I started to realize that my perspective was
Yeah.
only my own. And
Yeah.
so I had to then learn that, Erica, if you want to be in another relationship again, and that's not just romantic, that's any type of relationship. If
Yeah.
you want healthy relationships, you're going to have to start to consider more than you.
Mm. Go
It's
ahead now.
not just, oh, well, I want somebody who going to make me. Yeah, well, what you doing for it? What you doing in the relationship?
Mm.
Are
Yeah.
you giving what you want?
Yeah.
Are you on the giving end of where you want to receive as well? And I was starting to realize that there was more that I needed to offer to someone. There was more. There were times when I thought I was just ready for a relationship. Oh, I met one guy. Oh my goodness, he was husband material. And I remember that broke up, and I was so mad at God. Y'all don't judge me. I was so mad at God. I had called one of my spiritual sisters, and I was like, "Why won't He let me end it? I want to be in a relationship." And the Holy Spirit had to say to me, He said, you weren't ready for him.
Mm. Go
I know
ahead.
you thought you were, but you weren't ready for him.
Go
That
ahead.
man
Speak.
was ready for a
Mm.
marriage. That man was ready for a wife, and you weren't that. There
Mm.
are still things that you weren't taking care of in yourself. And I had
Right.
to turn tail I begin to look at myself in the mirror and begin to ask, Erica, are you responding properly? Are do you say thank you when someone gives a compliment? Are you willing to bend so that someone else can feel, it's just it's a give and take
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
believe that has to happen when we are pursuing our authentic selves. And in
Mm-hmm.
pursuing our authentic selves, what that looks like is, what's my goal here in this
Mm.
relationship? Is
Yeah.
my goal to be lifted up and
Yeah.
and be the queen, or is
Yeah.
my goal to have a healthy relationship? Because if that's
Mm.
the case, right, then I'm no longer looking at how I'm responding. I'm looking at how my responses
Responses. Yeah.
reflect on you.
Yeah. And that's though is what gets you elevated though to that queen status. And
Oh,
it's work and it's a journey. And I mean, I've come to understand a lot of what you're talking about. My wife and I, thank the Lord, we've been together 30 years. We've been married for 25.
congratulations. I
Thank
love it.
you. Thank you. But everything that you're talking about is true both for men and women.
Absolutely.
you have to look inward. And the hardest thing in life to do is to look at yourself and
Mhm.
break down all of those ugly tendencies and
Yes.
habits that you have.
Yes.
And then though, that's hard, but then to actually do the work. And I love the
Ooh,
fact, what you say, putting in the work. But
yes.
speaking on work, like you do have and reading, you talk about the prep way and the
Mhm.
rise methodology and
Mhm.
signature frameworks within EVG. Can you like just walk our audience through, these methodologies and how they were developed, and really, if you have a story again that maybe best illustrates their impact, I think would also be helpful.
Well, the frameworks are the PrEP way, and the PrEP way stands for personal development and positioning, restoration, and framing. The E is for execution through education and empowerment. P is for prosperity through financial literacy. And the RISE methodology is to reflect, identify, strategize, and elevate.
Mm,
At the core, and then we also have a program called DNA Unlocked. At the core of everything, the simple version of it all is becoming the best versions of ourselves
I
and
love that.
everything that entails that. So a lot of times we like to go, oh, I'm doing personal development and I'm working on my body. Yeah, but your
Mm,
body is not all of it. Are you happy at work? Are you happy in the spirit? Are you happy in your mind? Working on your body is one part of it, but we have to understand that personal development means the entire thing.
yeah.
If I'm going to develop the person, that means I have to deal with every area of that individual. So I have to deal with them financially. I have to deal with them educationally. I have to find out, what are the things that are lacking so that I can develop personally. One of the questions that was asked to me this week was, Erica, I'm trying to get to know myself. How do I do that? I said, well, getting to know yourself can be difficult if you're not a person to be honest with yourself.
Mm.
I said, so the question that you might want to answer first is, what don't you like?
You're like, go
Who
ahead.
aren't who aren't you? So in other
Mhm.
words, if I know what I don't like, if I know who I'm not privy to end up in situations that don't serve me. If I
Mm.
don't like chocolate cake, I'm not going to a chocolate house for
Okay.
dinner. It doesn't make
Period.
any sense because there's
Period.
a very small chance that there's anything on that menu that I'm going to like. But
Mm.
you see, because we don't answer these questions, we end up in these areas where now you're in a relationship that doesn't serve you, you're on a job that doesn't serve you. And so that's what the PrEP way and the RISE methodology, DNA Unlocked, comes into play to do, to help individuals slow it down
Mhm.
and really ask themselves, what's the makeup of who I am? Because in order for me to be my authentic self, I have to know me. And the
Yeah.
cop out is that society wants us to be trendy and do the status quo and
Right.
fall in line with everything. So there's a rise of the real estate. There's a rise of the motivational speakers. There's a certain rise of things happening. And so because I don't want to do the homework or do the
Mm.
work of getting to know who I am, I'm gonna fall into this trend.
Mm.
And so then when I get frustrated and I don't like it anymore, then I'm like, well, I don't have any
Mhm.
purpose. It's because you didn't do the work.
That's right. That's right. I
Hmm.
mean, this right here, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't come to understand some sensational and some powerful information, and I say sensational because it's true.
Yeah.
If you really peel back the layers and the onion on everything that Erica is sharing with us tonight, this is all us as human beings, the work that we all need to do to unlock, our authentic leadership skills. Because I do believe on some level, every
Hmm.
one of us has a unique power that's
Hmm. Yes,
authentic to
absolutely.
just each and every one of us. Is
Absolutely.
how we like you said put in the work, the
Absolutely.
dedication to unlock it
Absolutely.
and find it and share it with everyone else. Now,
Absolutely.
it doesn't have to be popular with everybody else because you and I we
No.
talked about it. A lot of times, I'm blessed to be able to share this platform and use this platform, but I know
Hmm.
it's not for everyone.
Hmm.
The world is following a different model, just like what you said. I'm
Hmm.
following my model and my path that
That's
I
right.
feel that I've been called to do.
That's
So I
right.
get it. It's not for everybody, but
That's
if I
right.
reach one person, if
That's
I can
right.
meet one person, if I can help elevate one person,
That's
then
it.
I've done what I was asked and called to do.
That's
And you
right.
have to be okay in that space. You have to be okay with that. But that's the work that I did to help get me to where I am. So I
Yeah.
love what you just spoke on. And yeah, yeah, that's right. I mean, we popping fingers and clapping because
Mhm.
that's true. That's really
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
And there's another point that you eloquently use as a midwife of purpose. I really love that. You really emphasize clarity and authenticity, like we're talking about. And in your experience, like, what are some of the most common barriers people face? And I really believe these barriers are self-imposed, but I'm curious to hear your point when we're trying to find our clarity. And how do you help guide them, through some of these obstacles?
Let me premise my statement with something that God said to me a couple of months ago. He said to me, Erica, stop romanticizing my word.
Mm,
And when he told me that, what I realized was there are a lot of things in scriptures that we were romanticizing. And so when I talk about the process of midwifery, and being a midwife of purpose, I think about the process of a midwife. It's not
mm,
pretty.
yeah.
If you've been in a labor and delivery room with anyone, you know that process is not pretty. Anything can happen there. Life can happen, death can happen, and we need to be prepared for it all. So the process of helping someone come into their authentic self, their authenticity, is one that you just never know what you're going to get. You never know what's going to happen. So you have to be prepared for it all. One of the things that usually stands out and is the hardest thing for people is pain.
Mm, speak on it.
I have a catchphrase. I say it all the time. Pain has purpose.
Yeah.
I don't know who deceived us in this life, but people have come under the conclusion that it's not supposed to hurt, that
Mm,
there should not be tests, that it should not go wrong. But the reality becomes, even in the educational system, you can't level up to the next level without a test. So,
yeah.
why is it that we feel that when things are going awry and we're being tested, oh no, I did something wrong? No, it actually, you're on target.
Yeah.
And so getting individuals to understand that the pain sometimes that we endure in life is purposeful.
Mm,
If we can change the narrative to how we're seeing, oh my God, I lost my job. Oh my God, that relationship broke up. Oh my God, I lost the baby. Oh my God. And it was like, oh my God, how could God do that? I'm sorry to say it, but he did it. He did it because he loved you.
that
Because
part.
if I didn't hurt you, how then would you grow?
Yeah. Mm,
If I left you comfortable, how then would you grow? So the process of helping people, and I think the hardest part is getting them to understand that pain part. He's one of the major companions on the journey. And I promise you, he is one of the loudest ones on the journey. And sometimes you be there on the journey going, I wish you would shut up, sir. Why are you so loud? But
right.
he's just there going, no, I gotta be flamboyant and I gotta be boisterous because
Yep.
I gotta make this hurt and I gotta make sure you remember me.
Yeah.
But
Mm,
that's how we learn, you
that's
see.
right.
And so once we can reframe the narrative for people of surrounding pain, authenticity becomes a little bit easier, because then you
Mm,
can grab hold of, nothing was by accident. Everything that I went through, everything that I endured was to specifically produce me.
me. Mm,
That's
that's
where the authenticity becomes. Because if you didn't go through what you went through, Damon, you couldn't be
right.
Damon Cunningham onto
That's
my
right.
team.
That's
And,
right.
and, and it would change the dynamic of who you are. So I can't then say, oh well, Damon went through this, I'm gonna go through this too. No, because the reaction and response is going to be different.
Totally different.
Yeah.
Totally different. I really love that because I think everything that you're talking about in I don't want to dismiss anyone, but it's 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 very simple life.
Yeah.
It's the cause and effect
Yeah.
of life
Yeah.
and how we all face it, how we all react to it. Because that's
Mm-hmm.
like you said, that's what the challenge. I was put to through a test of things. Man, I almost lost my life. So going through that change and that struggle
Mm-hmm.
helped me reevaluate. I don't think I was a bad person,
Yeah.
but how many of us get a second opportunity? And
Come on.
I look at those things where that was my calling. I had to be better.
Mm-hmm.
I had to do better. I had to
Mm-hmm.
lock in and hone in on those things that I took for granted or
Mm-hmm.
I did not push myself to do. And I love
Mm-hmm.
that because when I hear you talk and really understand more about, your work and
Mm-hmm.
especially like your work with destiny development and we innovator her, demonstrates really a commitment in my
Mm.
opinion, to what both personal and collective empowerment is. And Erica, I want to ask you, like, all of these hats and everything you're doing, how do you balance, fostering individual growth with building supportive communities, especially among women leaders, because our women are at the forefront, today, probably more so than ever. So how do you balance that?
It all folds back on itself.
Mm,
For me, it all folds back on itself. And if I were to take it from the perspective of women, uh, I actually believe that women are probably one of the most powerful creatures on this planet.
speak.
Uh, and everybody that knows me knows I'm an advocate for men, because I had an amazing dad. So I'm
Mm,
always, talking up the men, but when it comes to women, women are possibly one of the most powerful creatures
mm,
on the planet. And if we could access the knowledge, the wisdom of that power to operate authentically daily,
mm-hmm.
it would change the societies that we live in.
Wow.
So the balance comes in understanding that as women, we hold we hold an innate ability to, as the world says nowadays, make it make sense.
Mm-hmm.
However, what I realize is nowadays in society, because we don't lead first with authenticity, you have a lot of women lobbying for validation.
Mm.
So now, because I have to compare myself to this woman,
Good point. Good point.
right?
Yep.
I can't be my authentic self. I can't make eggs. Let me use my little eggs. I
Mm-hmm.
can't make eggs for my kids in the morning, because when I make eggs for my kids in the morning, they feel so special. My husband loves when I get up in the morning and I make eggs, and my kids love and it changes the way they go out the door. But
Mm.
because Susie so and so on Instagram gets up every morning and she goes to work out and she has a protein shake and then she goes and hang out with her girl and have brunch. Now you're not making breakfast for your kids because you trying to be like Susie,
Mm.
whatever her name is.
Right.
You trying to be
Right.
like her and not
Right.
being your authentic self. Here's the problem with that. When we're not our authentic selves as women in our home, it changes the dynamic of what we're pushing out into the atmosphere. A woman in her house will set the atmosphere for her home. But she doesn't only set the atmosphere for her home, she sets the atmosphere for everything that goes out of her home. So if
Mm-hmm.
a man leaves angry, it's because he got it from home. If your children are confused, it's because they got it from home. Whatever she put, that old saying, he brings home the bacon and she cooks
Yep.
it.
Yep.
He gives the atmosphere and she sustains it.
That's
And
right.
so as she sustains an atmosphere in her family, you see, whatever the dynamic of their family is, whether
Right.
it's single parentage, because we have everything nowadays.
Right.
Whatever the dynamic of that family is, if she is authentic to who she is, she begins to innovate. She
Yep.
begins to yield life, because that's what we are. We're life
That's right.
givers. So
That's
we
right.
begin to give life to everything around us. And you know what that does? It changes the
The
atmosphere,
atmosphere.
changes the environment. If I came in here sourpuss in all type of ways, you ain't gonna want to talk to me,
That's
you know.
right.
But
Right.
it's how we show up,
Mm-hmm.
and more so as women.
Mm.
We listen. You could take a room. That's one of my favorite songs. Again, don't judge me. Y'all hear me talk about it a little before, but don't judge me because what's his name? Lord Jesus. The young man said, "Shake the room."
Mm. Mm. Take the
Pop
room. That's
Smoke.
right.
Pop Smoke said, "Shake the room." Right? I promise you, I can come in and shake a room from any perspective because I understand the power of my presence.
Mm-hmm.
I can walk into a room and shake a room and have not said a word
Word. Yeah.
because I know the power of my presence. I will
Mm-hmm.
walk in, and like I say, I have my hook in a sec, which is my style, my engagement, and my ability to compel. I'm gonna walk in and I'm gonna take that room because I know that once I've engaged with the people in that room, I can compel people to think similarly or however I need them to think, which
Mm-hmm.
then I can nurture that.
Yeah.
I can plant fruit there. But as women, if we don't learn to foster who we are, our innate ability to nurture and mother, and sometimes the problem with that is we have a problem with verbiage. And if
Mm.
I say so myself, the American language has been butchered.
Yeah.
God help. One of the
Yeah.
one of the words I love is independence, but I don't use it very much because they've taken it and butchered it. So when people say independent woman, it's a negative connotation.
Yeah.
But I am an independent woman, I take care of myself. But the way they make it seem, so there are words like submission that women today don't.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There are women there's you don't want to be a wife to somebody who not treating. And the thing is, listen, but if that is your superpower, then why
Right.
aren't you using it?
Right.
We can change conversations. I remember there was a, I'm sorry, y'all know y'all not starting to realize I'm a God girl. There was a conversation in scripture, I think it was with Pharaoh or Potiphar, one of the two of them. When Jesus came, they were going to crucify him, and his wife Claudia said, don't you get in that. Send that
Yeah.
man away.
Yeah.
Send that man away. And
Mm-hmm.
she didn't say that from a podium. She didn't say
Right.
that in front of people. That man came home and she said, whatever you do, send him
Do
back.
yeah. Yeah.
Send him back.
That was behind.
Because
That was behind the scenes. She understood.
he
Mm-hmm.
knew what would have happened if he had done that. And
Mm-hmm.
because he knew he could trust his wife, because he knew he could trust her character, he listened.
Mm.
So ladies, I think sometimes when we embrace the softer sides of ourselves, and our partners know that they can trust us, our words begin to carry that value.
Mm.
And then
Listen.
there's the value shift, right?
Mm. There was so much power in what you just said. And this as a man, I grew up raised by a single parent. I
Mm-hmm.
watched her be my mother and my father and all things in between. But you're 100% right. A lot of my values, my ways, and movement came from a woman and understanding her power and her value and what she instilled in me as best she could to be the man that I become. But that really transferred what I saw is the reason why I married my wife.
Mm,
Those values,
yes.
those instincts, those skills to nurture, but
Mm-hmm.
also nurture me and understanding. This is something that I talk about a lot. The black man has been removed from the head of the household, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
mean it in the sense of a man has to be overpowering, domineering, and run everything.
Mm-hmm.
There's a role that she's understand. There's a shift. Now I know who in my house who runs my house, and it all goes back to everything like you said. She's so dynamic enough that a lot of times in my mind I'm like, did she just? And yeah, she did. But again, though, it's the value in the relationship, the
Mm-hmm.
trust, the
Absolutely.
belief. A lot of
Absolutely.
things that I do weren't even this podcast was not my idea. This was her
Mm-hmm.
idea. So
Mm-hmm.
once you grow and you understand your woman's value, her strength, and what she brings to the table for you as a
Yes.
man, it
Yes.
allows me. And
Yes.
I want people to really understand what I'm saying. It allows me to be the man that I am today.
Yes.
I am being the best version of a husband, a
Yes.
father, a friend, you know, but that also came through that relationship.
Absolutely.
I didn't do this by myself.
No.
And what you're saying is, I want to give kudos to, men, if you find a good woman,
Come
understand
on.
the value of good. Because a
Yeah.
lot of times it's not, my wife is still beautiful, but, and I don't want to say, but she's not the same woman that I met when we were 18, 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
She's matured into that mother, that
Yeah.
queen. We talk about elevating.
Yes.
Anything I do, it doesn't go without my wife. Like you said, the Pharaoh, I got to go back
Absolutely.
behind saying, hey, babe, look, this what, yeah, babe, now I don't think you want to mess with that. You understand what I'm saying? So these things and everything, I love how you shared that story because it's
Mm.
real. And I
Mm-hmm.
hope everybody watching this, take a time to do some inventory
Yeah.
of yourself,
Yeah.
brothers,
Mm-hmm.
and really look at your woman in that manner. What is she
Yeah.
bringing to you?
Mm.
Beyond the physical sex and all the other different things that we put values on.
Yeah.
How is she pouring into your life, and how does she show up in your life? I think is
Mm-hmm.
more important because then you reap the rewards, you reap the benefits down the
Absolutely.
road. So I really
Absolutely.
appreciate that. But we got sidetracked, but we're gonna get back on track because Erica also, like I said, we talked about EVG and image consulting. And as a designer and founder of a luxury fashion brand, Erica, like how does your background really from, I guess you want to say, from a creative industry influence your approach again in your personal development and leadership style? Because I think that's also very interesting to me when I look at it. Like here we have this woman who's holding on to grace and beauty, but you're using that to influence people through their development and leadership strategy. So talk about that.
Uh, Fashion was probably one of the first. I call it my soapbox.
Mm,
Because fashion really was what brought me out there. sidebar, if I was telling the truth, people would know I don't even like being in the limelight. I always say I believe the gifts that I was given was cruel jokes from God, because he knew that I liked the background, yet I got fashion, public speaking, and singing, and I'm just like, everything has to happen on the stage. Why would you do that?
What?
you know
Mhm.
but in the fashion sense, fashion's kind of guided me into personal development, because when I was doing fashion, I would remember that I would go and do these shows, and I would fit the models, and they would be there in the dresses, and I'd be on the floor, whether fixing a hem or trying to bring in the waistline. And I would ask this question: how you feel? What you think of the dress? Is how it feeling? And I would always get this response: it's nice. It's okay. And so I would dig, because that's who I am. And I'll go, well, what you mean? The- which part of it is nice?
Mhm.
And which part of it is accentuating the areas that you like, you know? And so I got a reputation of the designer that cared about the models. Like, I wanted to know
Wow.
how they felt, because here was the thing. This was my thinking. If she feels powerful in my outfit, it's going to change how she walks down that runway. So I
Mm.
don't got to do that much work because
Right.
she's coming down that runway powerful.
Right.
You see, and so I was interested in how you felt about what you were wearing, and so I started to realize, sweetheart, just because you're a model don't mean that you don't have insight. Doesn't mean you
Mm.
have input. I want to hear that too. And so I started to realize how many people were living life from this model perspective. This model perspective of life gives you something, and whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship, yeah, it's nice, yeah, it's okay, and so you're settling. Oh, it's okay, I want to be in a relationship, it's not exactly what I want, so I it's okay that we don't do this, or we don't, it's okay, it's all right. No, but that's not okay.
That's not okay. Yeah.
You gotta ask yourself the questions: what are the things that make you feel alive?
Mm.
Well, for the models, it was, what are the parts of your body you want? And I had one model. She said, "I love my legs." I was like, "So we're gonna take this a little higher, baby. We're gonna make this one a little higher, because if you like to listen, is she
Right.
threw that leg when she was." I was like, "Go ahead, girl," because she loved her legs. And
Right.
it changed the dress.
Yeah.
And so we have to understand, as individuals, even our fashion, everything about us, it's a clear indication of how we show up in the world, how
Yeah.
we think about ourselves. And when
Yeah.
you're thinking about yourself in a certain way, you'll start to understand, okay, I don't like this, or I do like that. And if I don't like this, then I won't stand for that.
Yeah.
If I won't stand for that, I won't allow someone to do this to me. If I won't allow someone to do this to me, I can say no to
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
You see, and
Yeah.
and and there are times when it's just like, oh, I love this, but it's not my color. Oh,
Yeah.
or I like this, but that's not my thing. And so fashion has a lot to do with personal development, because I
True.
always tell people, just because it comes in your size, please, it doesn't mean that it's for you. We have the duty and the obligation, the responsibility to be realistic and say, that's not for me. I
Yeah.
love it on you, but it's not for me.
You're right.
I had a girlfriend just the other day show me an outfit. It was absolutely adorable. And I said, "Girl, you want to rock that? I can't wear
Mm.
that." Mm-mm. She said, "Yes, you can." I said, "No, I can't." I said,
No.
"I'm sure it comes in my size, but it's
No.
not for me." And becoming your authentic self allows you to be able to stand in that power and know, there's certain things that are for me and certain things that are not, whether that's fashion, whether that's personal. I honestly just believe everything folds back on itself.
It does. Yeah.
Whether it's your fashion, whether it's your mentality, whether it's how your spirituality, whatever it is, if you know who you are, trust me, you're gonna show up different.
Yeah. That's so true. And that's growth also, growing as an individual and as a person and being more comfortable within yourself, I think also helps that development along as well. It's so true. There's some things, my wife, sit here, babe, what do you think about this outfit? And I'm looking like, yeah, no, that's looks nice on the model. But I know your shape, and you said, no, that's not it. And it's true. And sometimes she'll just order things just because I'm like, oh, you was trying that one. I said, because you, and she was like, she hates it because I'm so, she's like, I said, oh, you trying that one, but you ain't got no business wearing that in public. So I
Mhm.
get it. And I love that fashion is a huge thing. And like time
Yes.
is really flying. I mean, we're on the back end, but this amazing conversation. But I want to ask, really, it's like a two-part question.
Mm.
For you, Erica, like when you look ahead, and there's probably tons of emerging trends and or challenges, in personal development. Now, do you look at it, what are some that, we as personal development people or industry people, what should they prepare for, in your opinion? And two, how are you and EVG evolving to meet those from your personal business stance?
From an education perspective, from a personal perspective, equipping us with the information that's necessary to move the narrative forward.
Mm,
And what I mean by move the narrative forward is something I was discussing with you just recently, closing the gap between motivation and application.
okay.
You know, getting out of the sense of, you said a whole bunch of stuff that made me feel good, but now how do we do it?
Yeah.
How do we get to work on this thing now? And EVG, wants to sit at the foundation of it. Like, how do we help people get from, oh, this is what I want to do, this is what I would have done with my life. Okay, well, let's stop talking about what you would have done, and let's get it done.
Let's get
Let's
done. Yeah.
partner with people that can get the work done, and let's get it done. If it's not, if I can, that's something my father used to teach me. He said, Erica, I know you're good at a lot of things, and I'm good at a lot of things. And he said, so don't be ashamed of the things you're not good at. When you
Mm,
figure out what you're not good at, find someone who is and pay them
yes.
to do it.
Yes.
And so the move forward is not to uh what do they call it nowadays? Gatekeep. It's
Gatekeep.
not
Yeah.
to gatekeep. What it is to collaborate.
Yes.
Collaboration is the way forward. And so
Yes.
if we can get together, I always say one man standing on a corner yelling, they're gonna call him a madman. But if there was a group of us, they would stop and say, well, what they yelling about?
Feeling
If
about.
we
Yeah.
got together, especially in personal development, and began to bridge those gaps between motivation and application, and began to say, okay, well, this is my part, this is what I can do, this is my part,
Right.
this is what I can do. And then maybe we could change what some of our communities look like. Because what I always say is, I didn't come to change the world, I came to impact my corner. And I
Mm,
believe
keep
there's
it
work
real.
for all of us to do.
Keep it real.
Mm,
That, I mean, you're right, because we talked about that, and I do come from this a similar mentality, understanding. Sometimes we put value on monetary things,
absolutely.
but by coming together and understanding what the barter system is, what
Mm,
collaborating is,
yes.
the impact that you can have, and we talked about. I believe in doing it brick by brick,
Yes.
block by block,
Yes.
neighborhood by neighborhood,
Yes.
community by community. Those small things like that rock, you take as a kid and you throw it into the pond and you watch that
Hmm.
ripple effect. You
Yeah.
never see where that ripple ends up,
Hmm.
but if you're a part of it, you know that you help set that in motion.
Hmm.
The end result that you never see is really
Hmm.
what we want. We want to see this thing grow.
Abs-
I'm doing this not for me.
yeah.
I'm doing this with understanding that one, I want my children's children to
Yes.
have better than what I have. I want them to have the
Yes.
opportunities that I had to fight for. I want them to be easier for them.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
makes that makes the end goal understanding
Yes.
that the monetary side I may never see.
Mhm.
It's okay. But it's what I poured into it and understanding that I'm helping
Yes.
Erica.
Yes.
Erica is helping me.
Yes.
Erica and Damon are helping
Yes.
Jim, John, James.
Mhm.
It's,
Mhm.
it's how we do this
Mhm.
connection
Yes.
and collaborative that is the most important
Yes.
thing, because we're broken right now. We're
Yeah.
we're standing watching each other, and like you say, individually, I might see you on the corner. I'm like, that girl here every day, man. Something wrong with her. You know what I'm saying? Something
Yeah.
wrong with her. But again, now if you have 10 people with you by the end of
Mhm.
the week,
What they doing over there?
I might have to pull over and actually get
Yeah.
out
Mhm.
and see what they're doing.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's how sparks and how things happen. So
That's right.
I am a full force in agreement with you, Erica. I thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to
Thank
sit down
you.
and share a piece of you and really helping us unlock our authentic leadership selves. This conversation can go on and go on. You're always welcome to come back, and we can create all new dialogue and different things to converse about, because you have such a plethora of things and so many different hats and so many people you're impacting. Thank you. But before I also leave, I want to give you a moment. Please share your social media, share anything that you have coming up. Just take a few minutes, just to anything I didn't ask or touch on to share with our audience because I want them to get behind you and the work that you're doing and support you as well.
You can find me at ericavanessaglobal.com. Erica Vanessa anywhere, I believe, on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Erica Vanessa. Anywhere you look, you can find Destiny Development Global. I think if you go to ericavanessaglobal.com, it'll kind of lead you to everywhere.
Okay. All right. And is there anything coming up that we should be on the lookout for, pay attention to?
Well, Destiny Development is hosting our annual Unplugged retreat in September. We're excited. September 18th through the 21st. It's a 4-day retreat where women come to unplug from the hustle and bustle of life. Women of purpose to just hear more clearly and get more direction from God. And just one of the things that we try to do at the retreat is give them a little luxury. Sometimes as women, as mothers, as wives, as owners, as entrepreneurs, as intra entrepreneurs, you know, uh, we don't always get the chance to dote on ourselves.
Mm.
So Unplug gives them an opportunity to come. We have a private chef, and the grand home, we rent out a whole private home so the women can come and just have time to themselves. So it's an amazing experience. If you want to get more information on that, please feel free to reach out at my LinkedIn, Erica Vanessa, or Erica Vanessa Global, or destinydevelopmentglobal.com.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the incredible Erica Vanessa. We will make sure that we include all of her links in the show notes. Please take time if you or anyone that you know that is looking for some type of leadership skills, leadership development, is interested in beauty, uh, empowerment. I implore you to go out and check out Erica. Reach out. Learn. Really, I want people to learn how to use what we do here on Two Mics Up as a resource. A
Mm,
lot of times, many of us do not have access to certain things,
yeah.
but we're bringing you resources from people who are doing some of the things that maybe you thought about. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe you've questioned, like, how do I do this?
Mm-hmm.
Use the resource. Erica is a resource and she's doing great things. Erica, thank you so much again for
Thank
joining
you.
us this evening. I really appreciate great conversation as always.
Thank
So
you.
there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of Two Mics Up, and we rolling along. This is episode 199 of 200, and that's right. And I want to say thank you to our sponsors over at Riddick Entertainment and Events. If you are looking for someone to make your memories last, check out Riddick Entertainment. And I can only say that personally because they've done my daughter's wedding, brought
All right.
all of her vision and all of my son-in-law's thoughts to life. So check them out. If you're looking for, a digital design house to help you as a small brand get your stuff together, just like here, they've done it for me here on Two Mics Up. Check out our partners over at 94 Media House. They are bold, they are incredible, and they have so many ideas and designs, it'll blow you away. Check them out if you really need some help getting yourself started. And last but not least, our friends over at Tico Rico Hot Sauce. Spicy has never tasted so good. Straight from Costa Rica, mustard sauce. I challenge anyone. Go out and get yourself a 3-pack, try it out, and I challenge you to tell me that you've had any hot sauce that tastes so flavorful and so good. I challenge you and hit me up if you disagree. I want to hear from you. And like I said, look, season 8, Two Mics Up, rolling along. One more episode to go, and we're going to close out with the incredible Nardia. We're going to Australia. She's an Australian artist that's hitting the scene here in the States. Singer, songwriter, new single, Is It You? She's got a summer release called Hold On that's going to be coming out shortly. She'll be joining me for our 200th episode to close out season 8. Check her out. And like we always do, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you if you enjoy what we're doing, check out Two Mics Up. You can follow us online at www.twomicsup.com. You can follow us across all social media, IG, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Two Mics Up. 4-time award-winning talk show. Nothing but the realest talk with some of the dopest guests, just like you saw tonight with Erica Vanessa. Keep it pushing. We really appreciate all of you and your support. And like we do at the end of every segment here on Two Mics Up, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to leave you with 3 things. May you all stay safe, stay blessed. Mike's out.
007.